One of the most confusing parts of getting started with making cards is figuring out which ink to buy first. There are so many options out there, and not all inks let you do the same techniques. Some inks are made specifically for distressing. Some are water active, like oxide style inks. Some are pigment or specialty inks, and others are designed for one specific look rather than versatility. In this video, I'll show you why dye ink is the most foundational ink you need. This ink is versatile enough for ink blending, crisp stamping, watercoloring, and even heat embossing. And that's only scratching the surface of what dye inks can do. And if you stay until the end, I'll share a simple buying plan so that you know exactly what to purchase first and how to build from there with confidence. Hi, I'm Jeannie Scott. Welcome to the Upper Craft Room, where we make a mess and create something beautiful out of it. Okay, so now let me show you why dye inks work so well. They do dry fast, but the Gina K and Altenew formulas don't sink into the paper right away. They sit on the surface just long enough for you to blend the color. And then when you pair these dye inks with the soft blending brushes and with a smooth cardstock like Neenah Solar White or Hammermill, the ink stays on the surface long enough to blend without needing anything fancy. So we're going to start using Altenew inks for this part. I grabbed a paper towel so I don't get oils from my hands onto the cardstock. Since we're using Altenew, I'm bringing in the blending brushes that I use for this set. And even though this video is about inks, you do need to have a good blending brush. These are the Pink Fresh Studio brushes that I got from scrapbook.com. I'll link everything below so that you don't have to search for anything, just in case you're looking. With that said, and I do love these brushes, I do want you to know that you don't need these exact brushes. You also don't have to start with expensive ones. You can just start with more affordable options from Amazon. I'll link the ones that I started with so that you can see I didn't start with the best right away. I upgraded as I got better. I'm also using an ink stand. You don't need it. It's just convenient for me because it keeps the ink pad from sliding around. Use whatever tools you already have. If you wait until you get everything perfect, you won't start creating. And the most important thing is to actually make something. Here I'm starting with the big soft brush, staying with one color family. And I'm using several different shades of pink, and I'm going in light-handed, tapping into the ink and then starting off the paper, then coming on to the cardstock. You're going to notice it looks splotchy at first, and that's normal. As it dries, it evens out. And remember, these blending formulas give you more time than regular dye inks do. Dye inks are not all created equal. You'll want formulas that are made for blending. Some dye inks are made for watercolor, not blending. And those look a little bit more blotchy. I mean, you can blend with them, but they're not the smoothest. Now these shades are close in color, so I'm using the same brush going from lightest to darkest. And I'm holding my brush in between my fingers by the handle because it gives me more control with the Pink Fresh Studio brushes. And I'm creating that ombre effect, transitioning from the lightest color to the darkest color and blending in gentle circular motions. You'll see that the paper is going to start to mottle in spots. That just means that when the ink hasn't smoothed out or fully absorbed consistently across the entire surface, it leaves those patchy spots. I'm just going to keep adding ink until it smooths out. Building up that ink and layering the color helps them to start blending. I'm using the shade Pink Crystal at the top, and then I'm using Mauve for the second shade. Now I'm coming in with Berrylicious for the third shade, and I'll go back and forth in between colors to get them to blend. By the way, I'm sorry if you hear that noise in the background. Our furnace went out and we're having it fixed before winter really sets in. You can see how it's starting to smooth as it dries. The colors are vibrant, and the more ink you layer, the smoother everything gets. Now that the paper is starting to get saturated, I'm not as careful about where I begin blending with the brush as I was when I first started inking this panel. I'm just working toward a smooth transition, bringing the darker color up into the lighter shades where everything meets to help everything blend better. Now I'm coming in with the last color using acai berry, and I'm not even sure if that is how you say it. Now I have to tell you, when I first started laying this ink down, it was so dark it had me a little concerned. But these inks do lighten up quite a bit, so I decided that I was going to give it a chance, and I ended up loving it in the end. Now you can see that it's still modeling there, so I want to make sure that I got enough ink down that it smoothed and blended in with the Berrylicious above that, and that it started blending really nicely. You can see that the other shades have started drying, which means they're much lighter and that the shades are all beginning to smooth out. Now I'm going to set this aside to dry, but before I clean my surface, I want to show you how to use leftover ink on the glass mat. There's so much ink sitting here and I don't want to waste it. And it's another way that you can use dye inks. I'm spraying water on the ink because I need to clean the surface anyway, and this is a perfect time to make another background. I'm using Gina K Designs cardstock because it's very smooth. Hammermill 100-pound smooth also works great. I'm going to press the cardstock into the ink. This is ink smushing. It gives you a loose watercolor look without watercolor paper or watercolor skills. Even though it isn't watercolor paper, it will dry just fine because I'm not saturating the paper with the water, just light spritzes. I'm adding more water and picking up more color because there's still plenty of ink left. Look at how pretty that is. Now, I didn't mention the glass mat before, but I do want to mention it now because I like to ink blend on a very smooth surface, and the glass mat is the perfect surface to ink blend on. And you get to pick up the ink by adding a little water to it and using cardstock to get a beautiful ink smushed background when using surface like the glass mat. Now, I've used other surfaces to ink blend on, like the sticky mat, as well as the waffle flower ink blending mat. The problem is, for those, the blending brush drags across those surfaces, so it's hard to get a smooth blend, and you can't do ink smushing on those surfaces, so you lose all that ink. I'm going to set this aside to dry. Now I'm wiping up the rest of the ink with the cheesecloth and a little water. I don't want any leftover ink to get on the back of my panel when I go back to that blended panel. I'm bringing my blended panel back in, and first, before I do any blending in the lightest area, I'm cleaning my brush with alcohol. I just spritz alcohol on a cheesecloth and wipe the brush until I don't see any ink color coming off on the cheesecloth anymore. I never soak my brushes or use soap and water because when you do that, you get the bristles wet that are close to the handle where they're glued in, and the soap and water can loosen the glue in the handles. I clean just the tips with the alcohol and then let the alcohol dry. Alcohol dries quickly, so it doesn't take too much time the way soap and water would to dry. Now that the blended panel has had a little time to dry, I'm bringing back in the lightest color. But before I dip my brush back into it, I want to make sure the alcohol is really dry. I don't want to get any alcohol in my ink pad, so I want to make sure it's completely dry. I'm picking up more ink and blending between the shades. I'm laying on more ink because this deepens the color and blends the colors where they meet even more. I'm just blending with the lightest two shades, going over the whole panel. This is where the blend really starts to come together. I sped the process up quite a bit because it takes some time to achieve the result that we're going after. But I want you to see the transformation come alive as we layer on the ink colors to get that smooth blend that we're going for. Mauve is one of my favorite colors, and I'm bringing that in to blend the middle and over the darker two shades. It goes on dark, but as it dries, everything softens and it smooths out like butter. And as I'm working on the bottom shade now, I'm ignoring that little flaw because I'm just showing the technique. However, I will end up using this panel. Once this dries, it'll take about 10 minutes to completely smooth and settle into the paper. Now I'm going to set that panel aside to dry again and add the rest of this ink to the panel that we smushed into the ink earlier because I want to add more ink to the panel and cover any part of the panel without color. While those two panels dry, I have a finished ink smushed panel that I made earlier using Altenews pink crystal color. I want to show you how you can get a very crisp, I can't say that word, crisp stamped image using dye inks. I'm using a stamp called Thankful Magnolias that I got from Gina K Designs as a free bonus because I spent $75. It's a detailed stamp with fine lines, so I thought it would be a good stamp to show you how crisp of an image you can get with dye inks. Here's a side note. I am peeling that off slowly because it's a little bit of a larger stamp and you don't want to stretch your images when you're pulling that off the acetate, so you want to make sure that you pull that off slowly. This time I'm using Gina K Designs Black Onyx ink to ink up the stamp and get a nice, good, crisp image on top of our ink smushed panel. Now, I accidentally dropped that, so I'm going to do that again. And this time, I'm going to try to get it a little better. and you'll see that it does come out really nicely. And you want to not smash your image, but you want to give it just like a certain amount of pressure. I'm going to go ahead and ink that up again and give that another pass. That way we can get a nice dark image, because that's what I'm really going for. And look how gorgeous that is. That could be a card just by itself. As a matter of fact, I think that's what I'm going to do with this. Here's the blended panel I did off camera using Gina K Designs dye inks. I'm going to stamp the same image on this panel using the dark lilac color, which is the same color we use for the panel, blended with the medium and light lilac colors. I want to show you how crisp the image is even when it's tone on tone. They're both beautiful, just slightly different in depth, and both the black and the colored dye inks stamp just as crisp and bold. I know this ink is going to lighten up, so I'm going to give it a second pass, and actually a third pass, just so that I can make sure that the ink is very bold and stands out from the background. That looks pretty good, but I'm going to stamp it one more time just because I want to make sure that it really does stand out and that it doesn't blend into the panel itself. Now, I ended up creating a card out of this alone as well, and I am just so pleased with the way that came out. It's just a beautiful, crisp, bold image, and it's tone on tone. Here's a bonus dye ink technique: heat embossing. The only embossing powder you will ever need is clear embossing powder. Colored embossing powders are not necessary. I have a lot of them, but I never use them. Now, once I found out this technique, I didn't need them anymore. Unfortunately, I had already purchased so many colors. You can just emboss sentiments and images with dye ink. So here I'm showing you exactly what to do to achieve colored heat embossed images with dye ink. I'm using the same stamp we used before, Gina K's Thankful Magnolia, and I'm stamping that with the dye ink first onto my cardstock. I'm inking up my stamp with Altenews Acai Berry dye ink, and I'm stamping it twice to be sure that we get a good, clear, well-stamped image. You're going to want to let that ink dry onto the cardstock, and in the meantime, you'll clean the dye ink off the stamp and ink up your stamp again, this time with Versamark. I'm stamping it twice to be sure that the stamp is getting good coverage with that Versamark, and then I'm going to stamp it right over the top of that dye ink. The dye ink should be dry by the time your stamp is inked up again. Now, you can achieve this with any ink that allows for a crisp stamped image. However, this is a basic masterclass on dye ink, so that you don't start out thinking that you need every type of ink on the market or have no clue what inks to start with. I'm bringing in my embossing powder to cover the image we just prepared to heat emboss. I'm using Hero Art's clear embossing powder, but any clear embossing powder will work to get this result. Now I'm just heating that powder up, and you can see the shine start to come through as the powder melts. Now I'm heating on the front and the back to make sure that I get all the powder melted really well. And look at that shine, and that's in the dye ink color that we chose. So you don't need a bunch of different inks or colors of embossing powder. Okay. Here's the buying plan that won't break the bank, and how you can get what you need to do just about any of these techniques I showed you today and more. All you need for any of these techniques to work is a few dye inks. And if you want to heat emboss, you'll need some Versamark and some clear embossing powder. But you definitely don't need to get that right away if you're not there yet. Just start with your basic rainbow: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and purple colors. And if you can only get 3 or 4 to start, then start with your favorite colors and add colors as you can afford them to build up your color choices. Then add some neutral colors like your black and your brown colors, and then start purchasing other inks and so forth. Just a simple buying plan will get you what you need to start, and you'll be able to build up your stash fast. Don't start like I did and buy all these other inks that you probably won't ever even use for the most part. I use my oxides not as much as I'd like to, because I do love the oxides, but they're not necessary to start. And once you have a few good colors that you like, get a good Versamark ink when you're ready and a clear embossing powder. Get some good cardstock like Hammermill 100-pound smooth cardstock, and then go from there. It's going to take a little time depending on your budget, but you don't need everything all at once. Okay, I have one more technique to show you because I don't want to waste all this ink. Now I'm taking the stamp, the same stamp that we've been using, Gina's Thankful Magnolias, and I'm adding the ink to the stamp. I'm not pressing too hard, but I am pressing into several of the colors to get a multicolored stamped image. And just wait till you see the result. It is absolutely beautiful. Alright, so because I'm using a stamping block, I'm making sure that I get a good image because I don't get a second chance once I press this down. And look at that. I just love all those colors. We got blues and reds and pinks in there and purples. It's really beautiful. And I'm going to do that again one more time. And probably I could even get a better stamped image if I had a stamping mat, but I didn't pull mine out here. But I still think that we got really good results. Here are a few cards that I created using the dye inks in the video. This one is the Tone on Tone ink blended background. This one is the black dye ink on an ink smushed background, and then I created a couple outside of this video because the video was too long. But this is a watercolor look, so I took that multicolored stamp that we stamped earlier and I created a watercolor look for the back of it. I really loved how that turned out, so you can watercolor with dye inks as well. This is just like a watercolor wash, and then we have our ink stenciled background. This one I created using the Strong Oak from Altenew, and I stenciled it totally with dye inks. These were all created just using dye inks, and those are just a few of the techniques that you can do using dye inks alone. Now that you know why dye inks are the foundation of every basic technique that you're ever going to do in card making. They dry fast, crisp, and they're flexible. And once you have a few good colors and some clear embossing powder, you can create just about anything. I hope this was helpful and you understand your inks a little better. And if you haven't seen it yet, watch my video on the 10 essential tools every card maker needs for their craft space. It'll help you to build the rest of your setup to go along with your inks. Dye inks are where it all begins. Once you understand them, everything else in card making starts to make sense. If this video was helpful, please give it a like. It really does help YouTube share it with other card makers who might be just as confused as I was when I started. And if you want to keep learning with me, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss the next video. We're going to keep building on this and make it all start clicking together. And don't forget to hit the bell so that you get a little nudge every time a new video drops. That way you won't miss a thing. Thank you again for being here with me, and I'll see you in the next video.